Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. HTM here, and in this video we're updating one of my favorite builds of all time. This is the hybrid Dragonknight FIREBRAND build, now updated for the Deadlands DLC and beyond. Not only did Dragonknights get a ton of great changes in this patch, many item sets are also getting updated for hybrids as well, meaning there's literally never been a better time to run a hybrid in ESO than in the Deadlands DLC. We'll be talking about all the options you have coming up, from gear to skills to champion points and a whole lot more coming up next. Alright everybody, here we are back on the Dragonknight with an updated hybrid DK build. This is going to be our FIREBRAND build with an update for the Deadlands DLC. This build is definitely stronger than ever, so it's going to be a lot of fun to check out how the build has changed for this upcoming patch. So let's go ahead and jump right into the stats. Remember, on a hybrid, your attributes are fairly well split, so we've got about 26 to 27,000 for everything: max, magicka, stamina, and health. Recoveries are looking pretty decent as well: 800 mag and stam recovery, about 1100 health recovery. Making sure our weapon damage is buffed here. About 4800 spell and weapon damage since we are a hybrid. When we're fully buffed with all of our active effects and sets, closer to 6,000 on that. We also have about 50% spell critical and weapon critical, which is actually really good for a hybrid build. That's going to work out well. And then, of course, we do have some more armor resistances, looking at about 22 to 21k physical and spell resistance here on the build. As far as the attributes to make this work, 44 into magicka, 20 into stamina. Food is going to be Bewitched Sugar Skulls. This gives you a good combination of stats, whether it's max health, stamina, magicka, all three of those are present, plus a little bit of extra health recovery is not bad. Running the Thief Mundus for that extra weapon and spell critical is really good. And we also have Major Prophecy, Major Savagery, Minor Protection. We'll talk about where we get all these buffs from in just a minute. But that is the basic stats. Now, as far as the potion, I would just say, basic potions are fine if you have both on hand, like stamina or magicka. Ideally, you'd have some tri-stat potions as well for emergencies. Those are going to be really, really helpful on this build just for your sustain, since we're using both magicka and stamina abilities. And then finally, in terms of the race, interesting choice for this build is going to be Imperial. And the reason why is right here. Red Diamond reduces the cost of all your abilities by 6%. So hybrids are really strong coming in the Deadlands DLC. I think probably the most challenging aspect of a hybrid is going to be sustain. So doing whatever you can to reduce the cost of your abilities, whether you are a Imperial, whether you are a Breton, whether you use reduced cost glyphs, some sets maybe, however you want to manage that, I think it's going to be helpful. Imperial also has some good stats. You get 2k max health, 2k max stamina, so it's a pretty good option. Obviously, if you want more damage, you could do something like a Dark Elf, High Elf, Orc, something like that with the damage stats. It's going to be really good. Even Khajiit, since our crit chance is already pretty high on this setup. So I think that covers the basics. Jump into the gear sets next. Starting with our heavy armor set. This is the Armor of Truth set. Comes from the Dark Shade Caverns dungeon. You can get this on normal if you want. It's pretty easy to pick up. But this has been updated for hybrids, and I was pretty happy to find out that they did eventually update this. So here's what it will do in the Deadlands DLC. We'll get crit chance, max stamina, weapon and spell damage. And when you deal damage to an enemy who is off balance, your weapon and spell damage is increased by 460 for 10 seconds. Now, I like this a lot on the Dragonknight build. We're also using 2H, as you probably noticed. 2H, Two-Hander, and Dragonites in general have good access to off-balance. Off-balance also procs one of our other skills. And so anytime a target is off-balance, we will be proccing that extra 460 weapon and spell damage. So it's a pretty nice buff, and it's fairly easy to maintain on the Dragonknight. So this is just one option, you guys. The possibilities are ridiculous at this point, but I did want to try something new out on this build, and it does work pretty well. Now I am running this since it is a heavy piece on the chest. That's going to give you the most resistances as possible. I'm also running it on the legs here, so heavy legs. Both body pieces will be divines, and I did change the glyphs here. One is max stamina and one is max magicka, so we're getting a good buff to both of our main resources there. And then we're going to be running 3 pieces of jewelry. Now, it will be useful to transmute the jewelry if you can, either infused or bloodthirsty. I'm running 3 infused right now. As far as the glyphs, 2 spell damage, 1 weapon damage. Why extra spell damage? Well, Dragonknights have minor brutality. That's an extra, I think 10% weapon damage buff. So by running an extra spell damage glyph, we kind of offset that. We basically make our spell damage and weapon damage as equal as possible, even though Dragonknights do get that extra buff to weapon damage. So that is our first set. Again, plenty of options on this build. I'll have more options detailed in the written guide, including the sets that I ran previously. Those are actually viable for hybrids as well. Those have been updated too. So check out the link in the description if you're interested. Second set, since we're going off the fire-based theme on this build, we're going to use Red Mountain. And Red Mountain also has been buffed for hybrids in the Deadlands patch. You now get weapon and spell damage on the 2-piece, max stamina on the 3-piece, crit chance on the 4-piece, and then when you deal damage with a weapon, you spawn a volcano that erupts after 1 second, dealing flame damage. And this is going to scale off the higher of your weapon or spell damage. I know this does not look like a lot of damage right now, but this will scale up much higher when we're fully buffed. And not only that, coming in the next update, proc sets can actually crit again. So not only will this tooltip be higher, it can potentially crit as well, giving you even more damage. Plus, it just looks awesome. It fits the theme of our Dragonknight hybrid very well. And I want to try something new, so I think it works pretty awesome on this build. Now, this is a medium armor set. You can purchase this from guild traders. You can also pick it up yourself from Stonefalls. And so we're going to be running 3 pieces on the body. So we've got the Red Mountain boots, hands, and waist. Divines on everything. We got max stamina on everything. And we're going to be running our weapons of the Red Mountain. So let's look at those. Remember, these are 2-handed weapons, so they're giving us the final 2 set bonuses. So Greatsword of the Red Mountain is really good for hybrids. We'll look at this in a minute when we talk passives, but basically Greatsword gives you bonus weapon and spell damage for having that versus like a maul or a axe. So I prefer Greatsword if you can get it. Got Precise as the trait. This is an awesome trait for hybrids. Get both weapon and spell critical. Really nice buff there. And then we got the Absorb Stam enchant, just to help our stamina sustain a little bit more. So that is our front bar weapon. And then, of course, we got the Inferno Staff on the back bar infused with the weapon and spell damage glyph, letting us get very high damage for both stats. So you can see I'm running a couple different sets. Both of them work very well with hybrids. The only thing I really kept the same for this build is the monster set, which is Grothar. And the reason why I kept it is this can now crit as well. It fits that fire damage theme, and it does really good damage. I think fully buffed, you'll be closer to like 2k flame damage every second. And again, that's going to crit fairly often because we have good crit chance on this build. Now, in terms of the weights, this is actually really important. We went with 2 pieces of light armor for the monster set. So that's a light helmet and a light shoulder piece. Now, that's not ideal in terms of armor values, but it is when you look at the armor passives, which we'll look at in just a minute. This is giving us very important light armor passives as far as magicka cost reduction, magicka recovery, offensive penetration, and crit chance. On a hybrid, you guys, it's good to run some pieces of light armor. So 2 pieces here. So you'll notice, kind of interesting, I'm running 2 heavy, 2 light, and then 3 pieces of medium. So a nice balance of passives here. And this is really what we can do now going forward in ESO. You can wear different armor weights just based on what kind of stats and what kind of passives you're looking for. There's so many more options now that will be able to make tons of different builds that we never have been able to before. So again, we got Armor of Truth on the body and jewelry. Got Red Mountain, weapons and body, and then Grothar is the monster set. Let's run through the skills quickly, starting on our front bar, which again is at 2H. We got Reverse Slice, of course, from the 2-handed skill line. This is our Execute. It does AoE splash damage as well. Really good for when you're fighting multiple targets. Low cost, great ability, not much else we can say about that. Of course, we got Brawler. This is mainly for the damage shield. You can see about a 6k damage shield for 6 seconds, plus it does increase based on how many enemies you're hitting. So it's a very good defensive tool since this is primarily going to be a solo build. You want some type of strong damage shield to take on harder content. this is the way to go. That again is from two-handed. That's the third ability there. Choose Brawler as the morph. Next up, Flame Lash. Yes, we are running the whip on our hybrid Dragonknight. And this has been so much fun, you guys. I really like how this works on the hybrid DK. So here we go. Flame Lash does flame damage. If the enemy is stunned or immobilized, you can set them off balance. So again, another easy way to proc the Armor of Truth. And then if the target is off balance, you then proc Power Lash. This does even more damage and heals you for 8k health. So you might ask, why didn't I take the other Morph Molten Whip? Simply for the heal, you guys. On a solo build, having an extra burst heal this powerful that you get for free just by doing damage, it's really useful, especially if you're not running mythics or anything like that. This is going to allow you to run some really difficult content thanks to that extra healing power. So yeah, you could definitely run the other Morph Molten Whip for some more damage if you want to, but I like the utility here on Flame Lash. Now, combining with that, we have Dizzying Swing, and this is the kind of the combo I was talking about. So Dizzying Swing is a super easy way to set a target off balance. It also does good damage. And so basically, we have two spammable abilities. We have a stamina-based spammable DPS in Dizzying Swing, and then we have a Magicka-based DPS in Flame Lash, and they both work together because Dizzy Swing sets the target off balance. You can do that a couple times. You could do a heavy attack if you want to restore stamina, and then go right into your Flame Lash, do that Somersault Whip, and get the healing back. It's a really cool combo, which you'll see in the gameplay. Finally, we have Cauterize. That, of course, is our heal from Ardent Flame. That's the last ability here. This actually got buffed in the Deadlands as well. This now gives you both crit bonuses, which is really important and really useful for a hybrid build, you guys. Major Prophecy and Savagery while slotted. It's basically 12% bonus, spell critical, and weapon critical. That's a huge buff. Make sure you're running that on your front bar so you get both of those bonuses. It's really good. Finally, our ultimate here is just for the extra defense. Temporal Guard comes from the Psijic Order skill line, and this gives us minor protection while slotted. Of course, you will need Psijic Order Somerset chapter to get this guild skill line unlocked. If you don't have that, there's plenty of good options. I would probably recommend Dragonknight Ultimate, something like Dragon Leap morphed into Ferocious Leap. Ferocious Leap is great for soloing because look at that ridiculous damage shield. 32k damage shield for 6 seconds. Yeah, that's really good. That's what I would run in place of Temporal Guard. Let's go ahead and swap to our Inferno Staff back bar. Starting off with Noxious Breath, again from Ardent Flame. That's our third ability. This is a stamina skill, and why Noxious Breath? Why not the other one? Well, because this gives us Major Breach, right? That's going to reduce our target's physical and spell resistance by almost 6k. That's a huge debuff, letting all of your skills do more damage. That's really, really important to use. Combined with that, of course, we have Blockade of Fire. This is from Destruction Staff. Right here, Elemental Blockade. Now, it does good AoE damage. But the main thing we want is we want that glyph to proc. And so Blockade of Fire is going to be the best way to maintain that extra weapon and spell damage. Next up, Burning Embers comes from Ardent Flame as well. This is a good single target damage over time. It does heal us when the effect ends, so that's a nice sort of back bar emergency heal. You can recast it early if you need to. It also applies burning, so you get some Magicka sustain from burning targets. Molten Armaments. That comes from Earth and Heart. This buffs our weapon and spell damage by 20%. Pretty self-explanatory. You need to maintain this. And then, of course, Volatile Armor comes from Draconic Power. We have good passives from this. Plus Major Resolve, so the extra physical and spell resistance. Plus a pretty good dot. 10k magic damage for free over 10 seconds just for using your armor buff. That's pretty good. And the back bar ultimate. This is what I'll be using for more difficult fights most of the time. From the Ardent Flame skill line, this is really great. Standard of Might gives you really good damage, first of all. 4k flame damage every second for 20 seconds. That's not even buffed. But standing in the area also increases your damage done and reduces your damage taken by 15%. So it's a really powerful ultimate. It does cost quite a bit, but it is worth it, definitely. So there you go. That is the skills. Let's go ahead and do a quick rotation. I don't have my ultimate ready, but that's fine. So as far as buffs, you have those two, Molten Armaments, Volatile Armor, also Cauterize for more difficult content. You want to maintain that heal. And then you're always going to start with your back bar dots. We have 1, 2, 3, and then front bar Brawler. Here you can see Dizzy Swing gets that off balance proc. We can go right into Flame Lash. All that bonus healing. Barely even taking damage. Go ahead and use your potion if you need it. Refresh your buffs. So off balance should be just about up. I'm going to go ahead and reapply that. Get Flame Lash going for that nice heal. And go ahead and rebuff. You can see I'm getting kind of low magicka here, so I'm going to switch to just Dizzying Swing. That's the nice thing about this build, is you have both stamina and magicka-based DPS skills if you need it. There's that ultimate. He's in execute range, so might as well throw in some reverse slice. And there we go. All right, so let's talk about passives. What do you need on the Dragonknight? Most of these are very good. So Combustion did get buffed. This is now giving you up to 1,000 magicka and stamina when you apply that either burning or poison status effect. That's really good. Definitely pick that up. Warmth does apply the snare still. That's decent. You don't have to get that for a solo build though. Searing Heat does increase the damage over time of your main dots, so you will want to unlock this as soon as possible. And then World and Ruin did get changed as well. Talking about the Deadlands DLC, this now buffs your flame and poison attacks by 5%. I actually really like this. It kind of mirrors what sorcerers have for physical and shock damage. Now you get a similar kind of buff on the Dragonknight for flame and poison. So I would recommend that still. Draconic Power. Iron Skin is good for extra block mitigation. Burning Heart does increase your healing received. That's good while you're using Volatile Armor. Elder Dragon does increase the range of your melee attacks. And Scaled Armor does buff both your physical and spell resistance. So all these are pretty good. I would pick those up as well. And then Earthen Heart is really powerful, you guys. Make sure you pick up all of these too. Eternal Mountain does increase the duration of these abilities. That's only going to apply to Molten Armaments for us, but it is still worth it. Battle Roar is huge. This actually got buffed up to now 50 health, 50 magicka, and 50 stamina for each point of the ultimate's cast. Remember, you can use that ultimate towards the end of the fight like I did there for some massive sustain. It's really useful. Mountain's Blessing. This is that minor brutality buff we talked about. 10% extra weapon damage on the Dragonknight. Plus you get ultimate back. This is an awesome passive. And in Helping Hands, you get some free stamina when you use Molten Armament. So this is good as well. Weapon passives, you'll of course want all of your two-handed passives as well as Destruction Staff. All of these are important. And then let's look at light armor more in depth, because we do get some really cool stuff on the hybrid now from using all three armor types. So running those pieces of light armor, we're going to get sprint cost reduction, we're going to get magicka recovery and magicka cost reduction, spell resistance, and then weapon and spell critical and physical and spell penetration. So you can see light armor is actually really good for hybrids and just for damage dealers in general. So anytime you can run some extra light armor pieces, totally do it. It's very much worth it. Especially the last two, Prodigy and Concentration, are great. Now, medium armor is not bad as well. Medium armor is going to give you increased crit damage and crit healing, stamina recovery, and stamina cost reduction. This is really useful on this build especially, since we have a lot of stam skills. And then, of course, weapon and spell damage is always good. And then some extra movement speed and roll dodge cost reduction is definitely worth it as well. Heavy is good, particularly if you're going to run solo. You get the extra resistances, you get the extra health recovery and sustain, the extra max health, and the extra healing received. It's pretty good. So you can see by balancing all three armor types We're getting a lot of good passives, a lot of good balance on this build. What else? As far as guild skills, we talked about Psijic Order is really the only guild skill that we're running with Temporal Guard. If you do have this, remember to unlock Concentrated Barrier. Forgot to talk about this. If you have a Psijic Order ability slotted, blocking gives you a free damage shield. So that's really good. Remember that can combine with Brawler to get double the size of your shield there. That's pretty cool. What else? Undaunted, I forgot to mention this as well. Undaunted Metal, make sure to unlock this if you have a hybrid because you get 2% max stats for each type of armor equipped. And since we're using all three, we get the full 6%. That's a huge bonus for this build. Of course, you want your racial skills and alchemy medicinal use to make your potions last as long as possible. Jumping into our CP really quick, and as usual in the written guide, I will have detailed loadouts 300, 600, 900, and 1200 CP, so pretty much something there for everybody, but just a quick overview of what I'm using here. In the green tree, I always start with Steed's Blessing. The extra movement speed is awesome. Then come down into Gilded Fingers. Start to work your way up to some more of the slotted stars like Treasure Hunter. This helps you find better quality loot in treasure chests. That's great. And then Rationer for the extra food duration. And Liquid Efficiency for the chance not to use your potion. Pretty standard setup for the blue tree, starting with Precision for the extra crit chance. Pop on over to Piercing for the extra penetration. And then we're going to pick up Deadly Aim. We have a lot of single target damage on this build, as you saw with the 2 spammables. And then, of course, Thaumaturge. You actually might want to get Thom first, since the majority of our damage is dot focused. And then for the third slot to start, I would definitely go with Fighting Finesse. You saw we have almost 50% spell and weapon critical. So you get 10% bonus damage thanks to this guy. And then fourth one, really up to you. I just went with Untamed Aggression for the extra stats. Once you get kind of those main 4 damaging stars, I would go in the defensive route, so pick up Tireless Discipline and Eldritch Insight for extra stats, and then go right into Staving Death. So quick recovery, preparation for the extra 10% damage reduction. This is huge for a solo build, you guys. You want to get this early on. And then if you have extra points, Elemental Aegis and Hardy for the extra defenses. And then last, I would probably go Extended Might and pick up these other ones. So you can see here, since I am a hybrid build, I actually went both sides of this tree. And that's because I want both buffs, right? So Battle Mastery. This gives us more chance to apply status effects and then more damage. This is for the weapon damage side, and this is more for the spell damage side. So I would definitely go with both if you have enough points, because we are doing the hybrid setup on this build. I think that's it for the blue tree. As far as red, it's again really simple. You can actually start right away with your slotted stars. So like Boundless Vitality, more health, Fortified for more armor, and Rejuvenation for more recovery. And then I would just go down to Sprinter, pick that up. Hasty, Hero's Vigor, and then a couple of choices here. If you're going like pure world bosses or like dungeons, I would definitely do Bastion. So this is going to buff all of your damage shields by 15%. If you're using this build more for like a farming or like an overland build, I would instead do one of these. So either Bloody Renewal for the stamina recovery or Siphoning Spells for the magicka recovery. You can even do both, honestly, and you might want to do that if you're like grinding champion points. Do both, and I would probably just drop Boundless Vitality so I can get both of my sustained passives. But that's really it. Remember, if you want to see all the details, I will have those laid out for you guys in the written guide. Link is in the description and the pinned comment. But finally, we can talk about the outfit in case you're curious. I think this is new, so I'm not sure this is going to be available yet. I'm currently on the test server. This is the Ancient Daedric style. So this is what I'm using on all my body pieces, basically a mixture of heavy. I've got like the heavy chest, heavy legs, and then more of like light pieces for the shoulders, the arms, and the waist. I'm even using the weapon here, the Ancient Daedric sword. Just dye that black and red, and there you go. All right, everybody, and with that said, that's going to wrap up this build update for the Firebrand Hybrid Dragonknight solo build for the Elder Scrolls Online. Hope you guys enjoyed this one and you found it informative. Of course, if you did, don't forget to crush that like button. And let me know what other builds you'd like updates for it down in the comments section below. Of course, if you have any additional questions on the build, remember we do have that written guide over at our website, hacktheminotaur.com, where we go over alternate gear sets, skills, champion point loadouts for 300, 600, 900, and 1200 CP, and just a lot of good information there, so I definitely recommend you check it out. Link will be down in the description and the pinned comment below. Finally, we've got a bit of gameplay here in the new Deadlands zone, so you can see how the build looks and plays, so feel free to check that out. And of course, as always, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you're doing well. Stay safe out there, and I will see you around in the next video.